Hi, I'm Christine. I'm a yoga and wellness coach, and I often get the question from my yoga students about what props they need for yoga. It's either because they're just beginning a yoga practice in a studio, or because they want to start practicing at home. Maybe they want to do practice online with my yoga classes. So I want to walk you through the different props we use in yoga. The most important one is a yoga mat. Now, keep in mind, yoga has been practiced for over 5,000 years, and I'm sure there are lots of people who have done yoga without a yoga mat, but it does come in very handy. They come in, the typical length is 6.5 feet or so, but you can also get a longer version if you want. So if you're very tall, you can get a longer version. The only thing I would think about when getting a yoga mat is you might want to get a really grippy one because you want to feel really stable when you do yoga. And the other things I look for is how durable the yoga mat will be. And that just comes through experience of trying out many different yoga mats. And so if you want a list actually of all the different yoga props that I personally use in my yoga props, in my yoga practice, just put the word props in the comments and I will get that list to you. The one thing to consider when getting a yoga mat, they come in different thickness. So if you're planning to use it mostly at home and not carry it around, you might want to go with a slightly thicker one that gives you a little bit more padding, which is more comfortable on your knees. But if you plan to travel to a yoga studio and to carry it with you, maybe on a subway or walking through the city, you might want to get a lighter one just because it's easier this way to transport it. The other thing that I love is getting a yoga mat towel. And that is basically a towel that you put on top of your yoga mat. It has these grippies on the bottom, so the towel doesn't move when you practice yoga on it. And the top is fairly non-slippery. And the reason why I love these is especially if I'm going to a yoga studio and I need to rent a yoga mat and I'm not 100% certain as to how clean those yoga mats are, I can just put this on top of it and I feel really safe. And then when I come home, I throw it in a washing machine and then just air dry. Don't put it in the dryer. The other place where this comes in quite handy is if you do hot yoga where you sweat a lot and you don't want that sweat all coming onto your yoga mat, so it's much better if you can just put that on here. So that's a yoga mat towel. Yoga blocks. I would say after the yoga mat, that is the second most important tool that we use in yoga. And I tend to prefer the foam version over the more heavy versions because it is so light and it's so easy to move. And what they serve as simply as an extension of your arm. So if you're in a standing posture and you're reaching down to the ground and the mat is a little bit far away, then using a block really helps you reach the lowest part, basically raises off the mat off the ground for you. And you can use a yoga block on 3 different heights, the lowest one, the medium one, and the tallest one. So those come in very handy. If you're at home and you don't want to invest in a set of these, even sort of very inexpensive, you could also use 2 really big books. Those can serve the same purpose as well. Next one would be a yoga strap, which is a simple piece of webbing with a loop at the end. And so you can turn it into a loop. And that is mostly done for stretching purposes, but also, once again, as an extension of your arms. For example, if you want to interlace your hands behind your back and you can't quite reach, you can use a strap to hold onto. And of course, then also for stretching, for example, it gives you a nice extension of your arms. And these, the typical length is 6 feet on these. If you're very tall, you might want to get a longer version. And if you don't have one of those, simply grab a belt from your bathrobe, or you could even use your dog's leash. Any of these will work fine as a yoga strap. Other things you might find in a yoga studio is a yoga blanket. Traditionally in yoga, they tend to be Mexican type of blankets. They're used for many purposes. One, because blankets can easily be rolled up and shaped into all kinds of different shapes. They come in handy, for example, and I'm using here a bath towel, which works just as well. If you fold that up multiple times, and then you sit at the front edge of that towel, it immediately raises your hips off the ground, tilts your pelvis forward a bit, and allows you to sit upright much more easily than when you're sitting on the ground. But a blanket also can come in really handy in Shavasana at the end of class, when you're super relaxed and your body cools down, and you don't want to be cold when you're in Shavasana, so truly use the yoga blanket as a blanket. So as I said, if you're at home, just grab a bath towel. It serves exactly the same purpose as a yoga blanket. And then the only other thing I want to show you is a yoga bolster. It's this kind of a thing. This one is an oval one. It also comes in a more rectangular shape and other shapes. This is mostly used in restorative yoga, where you're using these to prop you up and you're just relaxing into these bolsters to release any tension you have. So those can be quite luxurious in a restorative yoga practice. So I think that is it. That's really all you need. I mean, the beautiful thing about yoga is that you could do it without any props. So it can be super inexpensive to get started with yoga. And if you were to invest in a prop, the number one prop I would get is a yoga mat. I personally would recommend investing in a higher quality yoga mat, which can last you many, many years. And if you wanted to buy a second piece of equipment for yoga, I would go for the yoga box. But that's all you need. So I hope you found this helpful. As I said, if you want a list of my favorite yoga props to use, just put the word props in the comments below and I will get it to you. And otherwise, I hope you have a wonderful day and I hope to see you next week. Bye.